Hello everyone, this is Colleen with YarnWars.com. No, I have not dropped off the face of the earth, but it sure feels that way, doesn't it? I'm coming to you today with a pattern, a new scarf pattern that I've actually designed towards the end of last year. Some of you know and some of you don't know, my son was in a major auto accident last year. And that's really thrown off a lot of what I've been up to. So it's kind of put a halt to some things. And now we're getting back on track. I apologize for the wobbly camera. Hopefully it does not do that throughout this video. But I wanted to bring the scarf to you. This is one that I started designing immediately before my son was in his accident, so that stopped short. And my son actually had, ironically, had named this pattern when I made it. Riley has been in a lot of my pictures on my patterns and my videos, and I always ask him when I'm done with a pattern. I ask one of my kids or, somebody, what does this pattern look like? My mom, anybody. And Riley said, it looks like a lifeline. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that doesn't sound like a name for a pattern, but I'm like, the more I look at it, it really does have this jiggle. And you'll notice with these stitches that I'm creating, and I apologize for the background noise, that's my dishwasher. But I wanted to get this first part started. Not real professional, I'm sorry, but honestly, if you've been to my videos, you know I am not a pro at this. Just sharing with you what I know and what I make or create for the yarn world. So anyhow, this, the more I look at it, looks just like that to me, a lifeline. And the way that I create clusters in here, it kind of bends them back a little bit to make it even look a little less uniform, which gives even more of an appearance to me of a lifeline. So I'm going to stick with that name for this, which, as I said, ironically, he named it. This auto accident took a little time from this kid, from his life. He's thankfully getting better, and we are getting back on track with things, but it's interesting that this pattern name came out just before he ended up on life support for several weeks. So I'm going to do this is going to be a pretty super fast video outside of this intro, where I'll tell you all of the materials you're going to need, and we're literally going to work up about 3 to 4 rows of this pattern, because from there it's just repeating that over and over until you achieve, whatever you're making, your scarf or whatever it is that you decide to make. I will do this in an easier for you to see color with this background. But anyhow, I will be right back with all of the tools, and we'll get started. All right, so for this project, I've used this yarn before in another pattern. I'm sure. I don't have the sleeve for it, but it is a worsted weight yarn. And we'll be using this along with an H hook, a 5mm hook today. You can use, obviously, for this pattern, you can use any type of yarn you'd like. Just make sure that you adjust your hook size for whatever the skein calls for, the type of yarn calls for. But this is just going to be a scarf version right now, and I will eventually, in the written pattern, I will get down information such as your, what you want to use for multiples to create other things like a blanket, etc. So to start, we're going to make our slip knot, which is just crossing over your yarn, and then I just put the yarn up the back here and pull it through with a hook or my fingers, whichever. Put your hook in there. By now, you probably know how to do a slip knot. I'm sorry, I ripped another project out to do this, but I would like to make a scarf with this yarn, so I'm going to go ahead and use this for the video. But we are going to start this pattern using a chain of 32. So we're going to make 32 chains. $29, $30, $31, $32. That was a little painful to watch, I'll bet. All right. So for our first row, and if you've seen any of my other patterns, you know I usually like to work in the spine. For the sake of this video, I'm going to work into the chain, but I like to work into the spine to create a seamless top and bottom. But I know a lot of like newer crocheters, this might be easier to go by. So after we chain 32, we are going to double crochet into the third chain from the hook. So we've got 1, 2, 3. We're going to yarn over, go into that third chain, yarn over, pull through, and then we'll yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So we made our first double crochet. And we're going to double crochet into the next 2 chains. We'll just repeat what we just did into the next 2. So we got a total of 3 double crochets. Next, we are going to single crochet into the next 2 chains. And I apologize, I have a cold. Single crochet. Double crochet into the next 3 chains. Yarn over. Yarn over 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2 more. And do that 2 more times. And then into the next 2 chains, we're going to single crochet. So we go through that chain, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through both of those loops on the hook. 1 more time. Double crochet into your next 3 chains. Single crochet into the next 2, and we're repeating this all the way to the end. We will end this row with 2 single crochets. So double crochet in the next 3. Single crochet in the next 2. We're almost there. Double crochet in the next 3. Single crochet in the next 2. double crochet, 3. And we've got 2 chains left. Single crochet in those last 2 chains. And this is what we have for after our first row. Next, we are going to chain 2 and turn our work towards us. So we've ended with these last 2 single crochets, these 2 right here. We're going to do the complete opposite of what we did before down this row. So this is not really going to be a repeat in the pattern, so much as it is going to be to get us started with everything here. So we're going to double crochet in the next 2. So we're double crocheting over our single crochets from the previous row. And then we're going to single crochet into the next 3. 1, 2, 3. Double crochet in the next 2 stitches over those next 2 single crochets, and single crochet over the next 3 double crochets from the previous row. Double crochet in the next 2. Single crochet in the next 3, all the way down the row. Double crochet. Repeat till you get to the end, and then we'll pop back in just a moment. All right, so we have come to the end. We just double crocheted in those 2 stitches, the 2 single crochet stitches. So we're going to end this row with 3 single crochets into the last 3 double crochets from the previous round. Or they actually would have been considered our first double crochets. So this is what we have after we complete row 2 plus our chain round. So next we are going to chain 2, 1, 2, turn our work towards us. We are going to start by double crocheting in our next 3 stitches, which would be our next 3 single crochets from our previous round. So yarn over, go through that stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and do that 2 more times. And then we come to our next 2 double crochets here. And we're going to work a single crochet cluster twice in that spot. How we do that is we're going to go in to that stitch, next stitch, pull through, go immediately into the next stitch over, and pull through that yarn. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. And then we're going to go back through to that first part where we made that cluster. We're going to go in one more time and pull through. And then we're going into the next one. We're going to pull through and then pull through all 3. And you're finished with that one cluster. So the cluster kind of makes an appearance that goes in a zigzag downwards, if you notice that. You'll notice it with the bulk after you create it. So we're going to go ahead in our next 3 single crochets from the previous round, and we're going to double crochet into those next 3. And then we're gonna do another cluster over those next 2 double crochets from the previous round. Our next 2 stitches will go in 1, pull through, go into the next, pull through. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on that hook, and then you'll see this is our first where we started that cluster. We're going to go back in there, pull through, go into the next one, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Okay, this will really start giving the appearance of that pattern. Like I said, you know, it's going to be after you've worked out a few repeats of this, but we're going back into the next 3 with double crochets. So immediately after we make that cluster, it will be 3 double crochets, 2 and 3, and then back to the cluster. In, pull through 1 loop, into the next, pull through the next, yarn over, pull through all 3, come back into that one before, yarn over, pull through, into the next one, yarn over, pull through all 3. So it's almost like that next cluster there. The cluster on top of the cluster basically is what it is. It's like it's pulling that whole cluster forward, and you'll notice it feels like you're making the cluster towards yourself when you do that. But then we're going to go ahead and repeat with our 3 double crochets. That last cluster may have gone, I'm not even looking at the video, I'm looking at my hands. So hopefully I'm doing this in the screen okay for you to see. And then we're next, that last double crochet I don't think went through both of those stitches, both of the fibers anyway, so I'm going to do that again. There we go. It did not. So we're going to do our next cluster and just show you making the cluster, how really quick and easy it is. It's stupid fast. And then double crochets for next 3 stitches. And then back to a cluster, in, pull through, in the next, pull through all 3. Whoa, 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 shaking the screen, sorry. And back to that first one, into the next one, pull through all 3. And 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, oops, 3. We will end by making 2 single crochets in our last 2 stitches. We're not going to do a cluster at the end. I guess if you wanted to, you could. I just like to have kind of a clean border to be able to do a border if I want to do one. So we have enough going on there. But you see how these are kind of zigzagging over. It's making our clusters a little less uniform, not so straight up and down. All right, so we'll continue to our next row. All right, so our next row, we are going to chain 2. We just finished our cluster round. We're going to turn our work towards us. And we ended our row with 2 single crochets. So we're going to start our row with 2 double crochets. And then we have 3 double crochets next from the previous row. We're going to work 1 single crochet over each of those 3 double crochets. which is pulling that level down. You notice that the pattern kind of has a wavy look to it. It's because we're going from double all the way down to single. Very, very different in size. So we're going to go next to two double crochets. And then we go to 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. 2 double crochets. And that's going to be over that cluster that we did with over 2 stitches. And then 3 single crochets. We're just setting ourselves up here for our next row of clusters. 2 double crochets. 3 single crochets. 2 double crochets. 3 singles. 2 doubles. Oops. Ending our row with 3 single crochets. 1, 2, into that last one, 3. All right. So you're kind of getting the idea of what this pattern is going to look like all the way up. And it's nice to have these little side borders here that will, you know, you can just really give a good clean finish to this. But honestly, if you wanted to get to the end and do your cluster on the ends as well, you could. I haven't done that, so I don't know what that makes that finished end look like. So I'm just saying, you know, go for it. Play with it a little bit, you know, see what works best for you. So we ended with our 3 single crochets here. We're going to chain 2 and then turn our work towards us. Sorry, this yarn is not like hairy other than, I mean, it's very hairy, but it's from the actual like fibers. It's kind of a denim look and it's really a cool fabric. I love it. Gosh, I wish I knew what it was. I'm going to have to see if I can look it up and find it. I may have another skein of it somewhere that does have a sleeve. So we ended with 3 single crochets. So we will start with 3 double crochets. And that's just working with our border there, our side border. But then, like I said, we're working into the cluster round again, where we will go straight in, no yarn over, just straight into the next one, yarn over, pull through, into the next one, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. And right where my thumb is, which is probably right where your thumb is going to be when you're doing this, these 2 stitches are what we worked our cluster over. We're going to do another cluster into. So you're going back to that first one, yarn over, pull through, into the next one, yarn over, pull through all 3. Then back to 3 double crochets in our next 3 stitches. I'm just trying to get you started, so I'm kind of whipping through the other part of this, and I apologize if you're trying to stay right up with me here. Just kind of pause it if you're working back on stitches. But now we're back to our 2 double crochets in the previous round, those 2 stitches, which we will work another cluster. Which could just be considered 2 clusters in one. And then we'll do our 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and then our next cluster over the next 2 stitches, and then back through those same stitches for another cluster, and then 3 double crochets all the way to the end, where I will meet you with a finished row. Not quite finished, I just thought I'd come in here for the last series here. We're going to do our 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, ending this row with 2 single crochets. So this is real easy. Where you end with 2 single, you're going to start with 2 double. Here we are. It's really a nice clean pattern, and it just has a really nice finish to it. So I'll move you into the next row, and from here it's literally going to be repeating this next row and your cluster row. So on this next row, it's the easy one. We're just chaining 2. Both rows are easy. It's just a different little technique at that one point with the cluster. But we ended with 2, so we're starting with 2 double crochets. Where the next row ends with 3 single crochets, and we start with 3 double crochets for our cluster round. We started with 2 double crochets in this, and then we'll go to 3 single. 1, 2, 3. Give myself enough yarn, and I might be able to just breeze through this real quick with you and get you into the next one. These are the repeat rows. This is the first of your repeat row, or this is the first thing you're going to do for each repeat round. And then we're going to do 2 double. 1, 2, 3 single. 1, 2, 3, 2 double. 3 single. 1, 2, 3, 2 double. 3 single. 1, 2, 3, 2 double. 3 single. 1, 2. Oops, sorry, hit that camera. 2 double. 1, 2, 3 singles. We'll end this row. 2 and 3. Okay. So you will first, this is that first of the repeat rows. We're going to build up, and you start your repeat row over here. But just to recap, what we just did in this row is going to be the first part of repeats. And this will be the second part and the last part. So you'll chain 2. That is until you reach your desired height there. 1, 2, 2, 3. So we come to our second part, which is our cluster part of the repeat. We are going to double crochet into 3, the 3 single crochets from our previous round. And then over these next 2, we're doing our cluster. And then we'll do 3 double. 1, 2, 3. And then our cluster. and 3 double. This row we will end with 2 single crochets. So complete this part, this portion of your row, of your repeat round, and then I will meet you at the end of this row. I can't get that straight, sorry. And to the end of this, and I just worked my 3 double crochets, and I'm just going to work 2 single crochets into the end here. This is the part I was saying, if you want to try it just to kind of experiment and see what kind of a look you get on your ends, you could try to work your cluster round all the way to the end instead of making those last 2 just regular single crochets. Try a cluster if you'd like, just to see. But the way that the clusters pull, I'm not sure, honestly, how that's going to work up your straight ends, you know, if that's going to make it less straight. So I just ended it in a way where you're going to have a clean border and you'll have a nice pretty pattern going throughout. It's kind of not the easiest to see right now, but after you've worked up a lot of this pattern, you really see the depth of it. It's really pretty. Just a pretty pattern. It's pretty. It's nice. It's clean. And you really do get that kind of, that effect of a lifeline. So I had a few things I had to get done while I was away from the camera. I did do a little bit of workup on this. Let's see if I can make this lighting a little bit better without totally throwing things off here. But it measures out, this one with the stitch count that we started with, a 32 stitch count, measures out to about 9 inches width. So I will, again, I mentioned I will, you know, put all of the information for how small you could go with this pattern to how large you could go to what multiples you need for your starting chain to make your desired project, whatever you are working on. But as you could see a little more clearly now with more rows worked up, you could really kind of see that pattern coming more to life than it was. But I just want to thank you all so much for joining me on this pattern video today. I hope you've enjoyed it. There is definitely more to come. We have some new kind of project ideas in the works, and I will also be, most of my scarf patterns also have hat patterns, so I would like to make a matching hat pattern for this lifeline pattern, for the scarf. And usually those, once I get my pattern together, don't take as long to come out, so should be seeing that within a week or 2, so that you can make a matching set for the holidays. Holidays are quickly approaching, but as with all my patterns, I like to make them quick and easy to work up, unique in design, just all around functional and pretty. So thank you so much for joining us. More information on the pattern repeats down below in the description, as well as where you can find us on Facebook and other social media outlets. But come and join us over at YarnWars Facebook group, facebook.com/YarnWars. Also, if you go to the website, you will find all of our patterns. They're free and available on the website. They're not available in a printable version. If you want a printable version, excuse me, you can meander on over to our Facebook group and in that group, you will find our files tab, which contains all of the PDF patterns or formats available for you to print off the patterns if you would prefer to work with them. And those are free as well. So again, this is Colleen, and I hope you have enjoyed this today. I've enjoyed working this up for you, and I will see you soon. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.